Hello, I'm Doug Langdale,
And I'm Candie Langdale.
and this is Cartoon Insiders with Doug and
Doug and
Candie.
Candie.
We did it again.
Oh my God. Alrighty then. So I thought it would be best if we went over the history
Yeah.
of our
Yeah.
time in animation.
My 34 years and your
12
13,
or something.
14,
Yeah.
something.
So
Yeah.
I thought it would go quickly, and here we are on episode 4 and we're not done yet.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to say we were talking before about how many nominations you have, and I have the list here.
Oh, okay.
You have, this says 2 animation, Annie Award nominations
Yeah.
for Kung Fu Panda and Aladdin, the series. And then for the Daytime Emmy Awards, you were nominated for Puss in Boots for the Outstanding Special Class Animated Programs for Puss in Book. I remember going that year. It was at the Pasadena Convention Center.
Was that the year Bob Newhart finally won?
No, it was not.
Okay.
And then nominated for Kung Fu Panda for 3 things in 2014, 2013, 2012. 2003, you were nominated for Ozzy and Drix Outstanding Special Class Animated Program. Primetime Emmy Awards 2013.
Oh, okay.
For Kung Fu Panda.
Yes.
That was, we were there when Bob Newhart got his first Emmy, which is unreal.
It was crazy.
That he had never received an Emmy before.
Yeah.
But that was amazing because I loved him my whole life. So that was very exciting. And then the Children's and Family Emmy Awards, we won for, that was 2022.
Yes.
We won for Maya and the 3, and then we're nominated for A Tale Dark and Grimm.
Right.
So that was fun. That lasted 2 nights. Jojo Siwa was the host the first night. And so we got to be there both nights.
Yeah.
Sitting with different shows both nights. But that was fun. So you have received a total of 10 nominations and 1 win.
Okay.
So those are all Emmys except for 2 Annies.
So it's 2 Annies and 8. Okay, that's...
And 8 Emmys.
How can I have twice as many Emmy nominations as I thought?
Because you are self-deprecating.
I guess.
So. Okay. So, Cleopatra in Space ended.
Yes.
Right around, was it 2019 or were you still on it in 2020?
I think it was end of 2019.
But
or
it
was ending at least.
2019 you had your first meeting with the Tale Dark and Grimm people, correct?
Yes.
And how did that first meeting go?
So I believe they had sold the show already. Actually, they had a bunch of development. They had the book, and they needed a writer, producer, story editor. Mm-hmm. So they gave me their materials in the book to read. I read Adam Gidwitz's book, and immediately I was like, oh, this guy read Bruno Bettelheim's book, The Uses of Enchantment, which I read ages ago, which is kind of about how fairy tales and folk tales help people, especially children, deal with difficult, painful facts of life. Like, they're not just happy, fun, silly stories. They're about significant, sometimes traumatic things, and for a reason.
Yes.
So Adam really embraced that and dealt with that in his book. And so I came in with this approach that we should absolutely embrace the fact that this story is a little bit brutal. It's difficult for these children. And my immediate pitch was, I think we should restructure the story. I feel like the main characters should get their heads chopped off in the first 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. And that was my initial pitch.
As with every show.
That's how every show should start. Mm-hmm. And anyway, we had this meeting and we talked, and David Henry, whose production company was supervising this and who was who's an actor and a writer on the show.
David Henry from Wizards of Waverly Place.
Yes.
And
How I Met Your Mother.
he was the kid in How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
So we see the back of his head a lot.
And we've seen him in
a lot of
he's
stuff.
He's been in various stuff.
Yeah.
But he ended the meeting by getting up and hugging me. So I was like, I feel like that must have gone pretty well. Mm-hmm. But like we did, I mean, I felt like I had an immediate connection with the book and with the show and with the people, and we got going almost right away. And I think you're right. I may have still been finishing up Cleopatra in Space when that was starting. And they hired you as well for the show.
Yes, and around that time, Jorge, I believe that was we went out to Indian food with Jorge and Sandra, and he was like, "I need to tell you about this show idea." And it was Maya and the Three.
Yeah, it was Mesoamerican Lord of the Rings.
Yes,
was how he pitched it.
But he had been brewing that up for quite some time.
Yeah. And so he was in the process of getting that going. Tale Dark and Grimm was going.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's concentrate on Tale Dark and Grimm right now.
Tale Dark and Grimm, and they also hired Jeffrey Reddick, who is the creator of the Final Destination franchise.
Yes, and Jeffrey is super great.
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like I keep saying this, but I mean, back me up on this. That was a terrific experience.
It really was. It was the experience that you want.
Yeah.
Adam Gidwitz, the writer of the book, A Tale Dark and Grimm, flew in from New York. He was in the room with us. And so whenever there was a question of, when we were adapting the story, it's like, what would Adam think about that? We just had to turn our head and look. And there, Adam, what do you think about that? And so we were all in Chris Henderson's office there on Olive in
Burbank. Yep.
In that little room that had windows. It was lovely.
Yeah. We could walk to lunch and to coffee and stuff.
Yeah.
And we spent days just beating out every single episode.
Adapting this book into
every detail of every story.
That was a fun experience.
And if I remember correctly, the very last meeting we had, the scheduled last day of this brainstorming session, was the day that they shut down travel because of COVID.
Oh, well, by then we were in the new office that was downtown.
Yeah.
And production had already started at that point.
Yeah.
Because we did the brainstorming in the first office, and then Chris brought our friend Charlotte Wilson Langley on to do, script coordinator. She was a lot of roles.
Yes.
Making everything happen.
She did everything.
Yes. And then we beat out the last of it later in the other office.
Yes, yes.
And then, the last day was the last day of air travel for COVID.
Yeah. Like, there were two people coming from Canada, and they were flying at different times, and one of them flew down, and the other one couldn't. Mm-hmm. And on the same day.
Yeah.
It was that close.
That close to the wire. And we were all like, what's going on?
Yeah, how are we going to do this?
Yeah. So we had to forge some new ground.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, everyone was flying by the seat of their pants. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've often said that every show feels like you're flying a plane while you're still building it. Mm-hmm. But, that was we got a whole industry here that is flying while we're still building it. Just trying to figure out how everything can happen remotely.
Mm-hmm. I remember setting up the computers on the dining room table, putting a Hieronymus Bosch screen behind us so the kids could walk behind us to get to the kitchen.
Yeah.
And who were also home from school.
Yep.
Nico was finishing out high school. Toby was in college.
Yep.
Everything was cuckoo.
Everything was remote all of a sudden.
And thankfully, we had gotten the story elements
Yeah.
out, and people were writing.
Yeah.
So,
And we were able to record all the actors remotely, and it all
yes,
worked.
I remember you sitting at the table, and you were participating in the
Recording sessions.
recording sessions. You had your headphones on, so I didn't really hear them. But I saw that you were there.
Yes.
And Charlotte was the voice of the Queen.
Oh yeah, Charlotte did scratch, which is when you record temporary dialogue before they record the actors, and they liked her scratch so much that she played the Queen.
Yeah,
which was great.
That's great.
Yeah,
and she's a really talented voice actress. She works a lot,
and a talented writer.
Yes,
also,
and a talented writer.
We've worked with again.
Yes, so because we had read her spec script, and then in the midst of A Tale Dark and Grim, we were also working on Maya and the Three, which Jorge came up with this whole story, and we just helped him write it.
Yeah.
And that was really freaking fun. It's fun getting on the Jorge train. He's so imaginative and enthusiastic.
Yeah, he has a lot of energy. Mm-hmm. And he makes things happen.
Yes. So worked on.
And that was that was all happening at the same time. Like
yes.
there were meetings that you went to.
Well, no, listen. While Maya and the Three started before COVID, because we were going into the office in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But there were sometimes you were still working on Cleopatra.
Okay.
And you couldn't get away to go to Maya, so I went in without you to represent you.
Yes.
And me.
That's right.
So that went on for months.
Yeah. So there was a period where Cleopatra, Maya and the Three, and Tale Dark and Grim were all happening at once.
Yes.
And then later, I think Maya and the Three, Tale Dark and Grim, and Samurai Rabbit were all happening at once.
Yes, but did we start Maya in 2019?
I feel like we were talking.
We were definitely talking about it.
I think we did. I think we started in 2019 because we were further along. I forgot that was before. We were further along with that.
Yes. And then.
Yeah, because I had to get permission to leave the Ninja Turtles show
to go to Cleopatra.
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, that was Puss in
before.
Boots.
Yeah, to go to Puss in Boots.
My dates are all messed up.
Yes. Yeah. It's just hard to remember.
So Cleopatra I finished out and we did. Yeah, but it was overlapping with Maya and the Three.
And then Tale Dark and Grim, I was just a writer on it. I wrote 2 episodes, so it did not take up as much of my bandwidth as it did to you. Yeah. As it did to you. So I was doing a lot on Maya. Well, our part of the writing. Yeah. And then our executive on that, Megan Casey, who is amazing to work with. Yeah. She was really great. She suggested that we go to, at the time we were just calling it Usagi, but an adaptation of Usagi Yojimbo, the comic book, and Gaumont had bought the rights to it and were looking for someone to adapt it for Netflix, and Megan was the executive in charge, and she's like, talk to Doug and Candie. Yeah. And so we went to Gaumont a few times and talked to them. And
we met with the guys from Dark Horse once, I think. And so we had talks about.
Yes, but they told us they want it in the future. They want a young guy. Yeah. And that was about it. Yeah.
Well, they had development already.
Yes.
And we came in and
continued.
Kept some of the stuff, kept moving forward. There were things they wanted to change, so we changed some things. Yeah. Originally, it was more. Originally, he was like sort of traveling the land more, and it was like it was what you said before. There was just no way they could afford doing new locations for every episode. It needed to be more centralized.
And the thing that people I don't think always know about CG shows is, especially the main characters, are very expensive.
Yeah.
So Doug and I do a little work in Maya, and
Maya the software, not
yes.
Maya in the 3. Yes.
There's like a grid over this shape, and you have to build the shape, and then this grid is very, I don't do this part,
Yeah.
but the grid is very intricately,
Yeah.
But like when I did graphic design, it was like in Illustrator, you move the grid around to make the shapes and the shading and stuff. And then to rig all of the points of movement in the face for just so the character can have an expression, moving the eyebrows and the face muscles and then the whole body. That takes so long and so much memory on the computer. Like one character is $20,000 or $30,000.
Yeah, main character is like $30,000.
And
supporting characters maybe 15 or 20.
Yeah, because you can rig them less. You don't need as much expression and movement from them. But so you have to be very frugal. I know when we first started developing Samurai Rabbit, like Usagi had little brothers and sisters and all these friends in his town and everything, and they were like, no.
Yeah. No, we populated a whole small town for just the first episode, and then he goes to the big city, and we're like,
it's like,
no,
that's
we're
not
going to
cost
design
effective.
10 characters we see at once.
Yeah, and that's why he had to go back to his town where he came from a few times, because like, I insisted that we build these, so we have to use them more than once. Yeah.
Well, the sets are super expensive. It's almost like actually building a set.
Yeah.
It's so expensive.
And it was so beautiful. Kang Lee's art direction and the supervising producer, Ben Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, it was everything was beautiful.
Yeah.
And we had to use them as much as possible.
Yeah.
The sets. So
But so we were doing all of these shows kind of mushed together at the same time.
From home.
From home.
Yeah. And it was something I was very conscious of the whole time, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And I remember when the prequels came out.
Yeah.
Phantom Menace. And I know it's not exactly an adaptation, but I saw how the fans, they like built it up in their head their whole life about what it would be like.
Yeah.
And then when they finally saw it, I mean, I heard complaints from people.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, shut up. Just because it's not the way it was in your imagination doesn't make it wrong. I mean, it wasn't perfect or anything, but just are you mad because it's bad, or are you mad because you have unmet expectations?
Yeah, it's that one.
Yeah, so I'm very conscious of that. So going in to Samurai Rabbit, I was like, well, this is going to piss people off because this is not the comic book.
Yeah.
And
Stan Sakai's comic book is a beloved institution.
And it's amazing.
It's fantastic, and people like rightly love it, and it has a hardcore fan base.
Yeah, because it's amazing.
We were coming in and doing a different thing.
Yeah, here's the thing. We were making a show for children that we could air on television.
Yeah.
And in order to do that to the original Usagi Yojimbo, we would have had to really water it down and ruin it
A lot, because it is very adult.
It's violent.
Yeah.
You know, it's for grown-ups.
Yeah.
So there was no way to make that show without really stripping down the comic book, and I think that would hurt the soul of the people who love the comic book. So, and then, you know, we were told going in, this is a show about a young rabbit who is related. Do what you want with it.
Yeah.
So, and it needs to be in the future.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, let's do this, but I want to bring Usagi Yojimbo in as much as possible.
Yeah.
So we found a way for them to communicate through time and space.
Yeah.
So he could exist a little bit, but there was, I mean, there was no way to make everybody happy on that.
Yeah, I felt. I mean, the fans seemed to respond pretty well to it. People were not.
Yeah, but
if they were, excuse me, if they were upset, they were upset that they hadn't gotten a Usagi Yojimbo series,
and they should get one,
and they should get one
because it would be amazing,
and it should be for adults, and
yes,
it should be its own thing.
But that was not the show that Netflix wanted at that time.
Yeah, but I think people were the fans were pretty accepting of okay, this is a spin-off, basically, and that's fine. And we got the guy who did Usagi Yojimbo's voice in Ninja Turtles.
Yes,
did his voice in the show,
Yuki. And Stan Sakai was with us every step of the way, virtually, because COVID.
Yeah.
But he read everything, had approval on everything, said no way a couple times. Yes. We got permission before we did anything. Yeah. So Stan approved of what we did.
Yeah.
And we hit the ground running on that.
Yeah.
And we accumulated the people we loved very quickly. Yeah. We grabbed Charlotte Wilson Langley, brilliant writer, very funny. She's someone we met doing stand-up.
Yes.
And obviously she needs to write on the show. Jeffrey Reddick, from Final Destination and A Tale Dark and Grim. We had so much fun working with him on A Tale Dark and Grim. We're like, come right on the show.
Yep. We
grabbed Chris Barger, who was working in the office there at Gaumont, and we read his spec script. Come on. He was our script coordinator and wrote a couple of scripts.
Yeah.
Got Jean Grillo. Mm-hmm. We got Etsuko Tsuji, who we read her spec script, was amazing, from her time when she was a journalist in Japan during the Fukushima disaster.
Yeah.
And Matt Wayne, who I had worked with before, but you hadn't. And I mean, he's brilliant. To me, I'm just like, he's almost as good as Doug. So we had a great writing team, and it was really fun. We wrote, everything was remote.
Yeah.
And then it was time to record, and the actors, they were the real heroes here.
Yeah, recording, like Darren Barnett recording, like crouching in his closet
he
for
was
hours.
In a hotel. On location, mm-hmm. crouching, and then he patted himself all around him with pillows.
Yeah.
And stayed that way for, an hour or more, doing like fight sounds and stuff. And that could not have been, what a trooper.
Yes.
And so he was the voice of Usagi. And I just want to say, because I've received questions about this, his name is Yuichi Usagi. Yuichi is his last name. And I know that's not
his family name.
Yes, it is not a common surname in Japan, but I I wanted to name him after the guy at karaoke where we've been going.
We like Yuichi.
Where we've been going for 14 years.
Yeah.
So, but we call him Usagi, so Yuichi had to be his last name.
Yeah.
So, there's confusion because Yuichi's typically a first name.
Yes.
But in this case, it's not.
In this case, it's a family name.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we got Alex Lee to do the voice again, mm-hmm. and he was great.
Yeah.
And Keone Young was Tetsujin. Mm-hmm. Shelley Rabara was Kitsune, and did she play Peridot? She was from Steven Universe.
I think so.
She's been in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And Mallory Lowe was Chizu.
Yeah.
And she was great. The stuff when she had to sing, nay, 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 it's your special day. She got that on the first take.
It was tough because she is a highly skilled singer. Mm-hmm. And we're like, we need you to sing something like you can't really sing.
Right.
And she nailed it.
Yeah,
I know that's
really
hard.
Did. And then Gen and Usagi doing karaoke. I had to get some karaoke in there because I'm a huge karaoke fan, as is Doug.
Yeah.
And we've even taken singing lessons so that we can be better at karaoke. Which is so sad.
Nerds.
I know. And then Sung-Wan Cho was the voice of
he is hilarious.
Lord Kogane.
Yeah.
And I was not familiar with him, and we were listening to all the auditions, and I was like, that guy.
Yeah.
And Terry was like, don't you want to listen to... No! That's him! That's the guy! He was really good.
Yeah.
And it was just such a great experience, and it was sad that there was like people that we didn't get to meet until the cast and crew party a couple of years later.
It was weird, yeah, when we had that party and you meet people and you're like, this dude's like 6.5 feet tall. I had no idea. Everyone's on the Zoom meetings. They're all, Eric is a giant.
Everyone's only 6 inches tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Alex, you would think like he's playing this huge character, and he was a normal sized person,
and he was,
which should not have been surprising.
No, but and he's very versatile.
Yeah.
And Darren was also the voice of Usagi. We had like everyone try out being not Usagi. He was Usagi, the voice of Spot.
Yes.
Usagi's pet. We had everyone do that. Like, okay, let's hear your Spot. And Darren really nailed it.
It was like he had no idea he could do animal sounds.
Yeah, like,
and then
here's your new career.
You're a natural.
Young Frank Welker.
Yeah.
So
Darren did the voice of the English dub for the main character in Godzilla -1.
Oh, that was so good.
Which was so good.
We were watching that, and I'm like,
it going,
that sounds like Darren.
That's got to be Darren.
And then it was Darren.
He was so good.
It was Darren. Yeah.
That was like, that seemed challenging.
Yeah.
That was some real acting for dubbing. Oh, that must have been hard.
I hope he didn't have to do it crouched in a closet
in a hotel
somewhere.
room closet.
Yeah. And then Keone Young recording at home. In
the middle of summer.
In the middle of the summer, he had to ask his neighbors to turn off their air conditioning while he recorded.
Sometimes for a couple of hours.
I know.
At the peak heat, it's 105 degrees.
Oh.
And they agreed.
I know. That he must be nice.
We would be recording him, and he'd be getting texts like, "Can we turn on our air conditioning yet?" No.
Oh, I loved him in Deadwood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Samurai Rabbit and A Tale Dark and Grim and Maya and the Three and Cleopatra in Space are all kind of interwoven in my mind.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
Those were weird. It was scary because you didn't know.
It was a weird time because it was like,
are we all going to die?
Tragic event. Are we all going to die? Is this the apocalypse? Mm-hmm. No one could go anywhere. Everything was shut down, and we were working more than we've ever worked before.
Yeah. 60, 80 hours a week.
Amazing shows.
Yeah.
Like having the greatest work experience at the worst time in history.
Yeah, it was weird.
It was very weird.
It was cool too, because on A Tale Dark and Grim especially, we were able to get not we, us, they, you, were able to get so many celebrity voices because everything was shut down except animation.
Yes.
So people who would normally say no to doing a voice
were like,
okay.
Yeah.
So
we went over budget on the casting for Tale Dark and Grim because normally, they'll go out to like 10 celebrities for roles and like one of them will say yes.
Yes.
And they cost more than non-celebrity actors. A little bit. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden they're going at the 10 name actors and they're all saying yes. And it's like, oh no.
We're going to have to pay them.
The budget.
My big surprise was Adam Lambert as the voice of the devil. He was really good.
He was fantastic.
I was so like, hey, you want to go to karaoke?
It was just like,
not really.
It was one of those like was like I worked with Eric Bauza on his first show his second show was El Tigre actually because he did Ren and Stimpy, but he was an animator at the time. He did El Tigre and it was like, I think we just found the new Mel Blanc.
Yeah.
It was like he was so good, and like now he's in everything.
Yeah.
He has all the voices. It's exciting when you find someone like that. And I felt like Adam Lambert could be he could be the new Mel Blanc. He was so good.
Yeah, he was really good.
And he auditioned for other stuff too, so we heard him doing other voices. Very talented.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was great.
So
that takes us through. Like everything that has aired, I think.
Yes.
Almost everything that has aired.
Yeah, except I worked on a couple of things that you didn't.
2 things we should talk about.
2 things?
2 or 3? 2.
Well, I did an episode of Spirit Riding Free.
Yes.
I did some, I wrote some Puss in Boots.
Yes.
An episode of Yabba Dabba Dinosaurs.
Oh, right.
What was that called?
Yabba Dabba Dinos. I think Yabba Dabba Dinosaurs? Yeah.
Okay, there's stuff that's not in my
but that was a thing that
IMDB.
You wrote.
Yeah. And I see they finally took off Ren and Stimpy. For a long time it said I wrote on Ren and Stimpy, and I did not.
Yeah. This has happened to both of us occasionally where something turns up on IMDb and it's like, I have never heard of that thing.
Yeah. And then throughout that, we are writers for a certain comedic actor that
we've been writing jokes for years.
Yeah, Doug had developed an animated show with him that didn't air. 20 years ago?
Something like that, yeah.
And so he keeps us busy.
Yeah.
And
we did all of his social media for a while. We did half of his social media for a while.
Yeah, we did a bunch of his stuff. And what else? There was something else.
You did Nico and the Sword of Light. We haven't talked about that.
That's where we accumulated Matt Wayne.
Yes.
Yes. And then we had 4 shows in development at Netflix that we were just like waiting for whichever one of them got picked up just first.
Writing more and more on every show.
And then everything got axed.
Yeah. It was just sort of a big upheaval there, and it was weird because we were watching other things get canceled around us. And big name
feeling
people.
Cocky.
We were feeling cocky because like Guillermo del Toro got something canceled. And
Taika Waititi.
Paul McCartney's project.
Ron Howard.
Yeah, all these big names. It was
cool seeing Ron Howard in the cafeteria at work.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh no, his show got canceled.
So we were feeling kind of invulnerable there for a while. It was like all these people, their projects are falling down, but we still have all these things going on. And then the axe fell.
Yeah.
And a lot of upheavals at Netflix. A lot of things got canceled. All of our projects got canceled.
Everything's canceled. Like a lot of people in the industry aren't working now. Yeah. It's like everything's been chopped. But we've been spending our time volunteering at a horse rescue.
Yes. We volunteered at the Burbank Comedy Festival last year.
Yes.
Doing some stuff. Doing a podcast.
We
developing various things.
Yeah, we've been in development on a few things. Keeping busy doing stuff.
Yeah. But I do think we've pretty much caught up to the present day now, right? So we will move on to topics.
There's a lot of stuff going on right now that we can't talk about because there's stuff in development that we're not allowed to talk about until it's announced.
Yes.
And
we must have 5 or 6 things going on right now that we
Possibilities.
possibilities that we literally cannot say anything about.
Yeah,
legally. We have signed non-disclosure agreements. Probably saying that we've signed non-disclosure agreements itself violates the non-disclosure agreements. NDAs, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, since we've gone over the... Oh, no, it says right here, I'm known for Ren and Stimpy.
Aw, get that off of there.
I didn't...
I tried to remove it. My IMDb has something that... I had this happen one time where Carlos Ramos called me and he's like, hey, I just interviewed for this job on this thing, and he told me what it was, and they say you're writing the script, and I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what that project is. I don't know who these people are. They said my name, and he's like, yeah, they told me you're writing it. Never heard anything about it ever again.
Oh my goodness. And besides the stuff in development, there's been stuff over the years where you write the first draft of a script and they decide not to move forward, and there's
a lot of that.
There's a lot of stuff going on that nobody ever sees.
Yeah, and we've done a ton of punch up on things that everyone has seen but we're not credited on.
Right, because you kind of ghostwrite that stuff.
We have like 2 to 8 jokes in 10 movies.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. More than that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of behind the scenes.
There's a lot of little bitty things going on.
So we kind of covered the history. Yeah. It took only, 5 episodes?
No, 4.
4? Okay.
A mere 4.
All right. So after this,
we'll discuss some
the industry, because
industry topics as industry insiders.
Yes.
You should give our Instagram.
Yes.
Because people might have topics they want us to cover.
Yes.
That we could consider.
There's a lot of different things.
Yeah, we can talk about 2D versus CG.
How the process works.
Yeah.
But yes, if you have questions, it's Doug and Candie Langdale on Instagram. Doug, DOUG _AND _. Candie, CANDIE, it's spelled Candie, _ Langdale, LANGDALE. We're right there on the Instagrams. You can, and I mean, it's just like a lot of pictures of our dog.
There's so many pictures of Klaus.
Concerts that we go to. A lot of pictures of my car. So yeah,
let us know.
That's the best place to contact us.
We need a catchy sign-off phrase.
Yeah.
Don't we? Good night and God bless.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Something.
I don't know. I mean, we're just sort of flying by the seat of our pants here.
Eventually we'll do a theme song.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Happy cartoons to you. Something.
I wrote the tunes to the karaoke songs.
Yes, and the happy birthday song.
Yes.
On Samurai Rabbit.
On Samurai Rabbit. Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit of a piano player, so and by a little bit of, I do mean a little bit of.
You can brag a little bit. We didn't have a composer yet on the show.
And I'm like, I'll do it.
And so you just went in and played the songs on the piano, and we sent that to the actors, and they sang along, and you did a great job.
I did an adequate job.
It was fantastic. Some of those songs are still stuck in my head.
Okay.
Nay, nay, nay. It's your special day.
That's not really a song. It's more of a chant.
It is.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week.
Goodbye.
Is that our catchphrase? Goodbye?
That's our catchphrase.
Goodbye.
That's our sign off.
Bye.